Hello everyone and welcome back to these A to Z video guides that I'm doing on Upwork. In today's video, it's going to be pretty special because I'm going to be talking about how you can consistently find high ticket jobs on Upwork without you having to guess and pick and choose jobs that you're not sure of. So I'm going to be going over the A to Z steps that I take for not only myself but for my clients when we're prospecting on Upwork. So as usual, we're just going to do a bit of housekeeping first, give you a brief introduction here. So my name is Matthew Johnson. I'm a 21-year-old from Jamaica, which is why my accent sounds kind of funny. And I'm the sole creator of this document and the founder of Pleiades Consultancy. So I've been in the Upwork and marketing agency space for close to 2 years at the time of this recording and have driven over $100,000 in revenue for B2B companies, marketing agencies, and freelancers exclusively from Upwork. So these are all my social media profiles and these are what have been called my best YouTube videos. Now you're going to be given access to these in the document, which is going to be in the description below. So don't worry about having to copy anything now. Really don't need to. You'll also be able to access all of my other trainings. So whether it be my first video, my second video, or subsequent videos that I'll be making, you'll be able to access all of my trainings there. So by all means, pick it up and even read on, right? Read ahead. So I'd also like to take this opportunity to give more information about my free Upwork community. So Upwork Mastery is a community dedicated to the complete understanding and implementation of Upwork as a method for B2B companies, marketing agencies, and freelancers to drive revenue through qualified, consistent, and quality leads at a fraction of the cost. So I know that there are many courses out there on Upwork that promise the exact same thing, but I'm actually someone who has done and I practice what I preach essentially. This is a completely free community, by the way. So these videos are intended to provide more value than you would pay for like a $97, $497, etc. course. So if you like these types of videos, then for sure join Upwork Mastery as we continue to build it out. The link, it will be in the description, but you can also get it in this document. Again, would be provided completely for free. So just a brief introduction here. I do this in every video, so I probably won't go too in depth into it just for the sake of time and simplicity. But something that you need to understand before, why Upwork or what is Upwork in the first place, right? That's a question that most people would have. Now, the way I like to describe Upwork, I could speak so much on this because I've literally dedicated near 2 years of my life just to using Upwork and going through the motions on it. I've done it for myself and I've done it for clients as well. So in essence, what I like to refer to Upwork as is the leading freelance marketplace of the world, and it being a platform that is woefully underused and underrated because many people have this misconception that Upwork is only for lower ticket jobs. So everything Upwork related needs to be for complete beginners or people that are struggling to just sign their first client. And while there holds some truth to that, that doesn't mean that people who charge higher ticket deals can't win on Upwork. That's just a myth, right? And I'll go more in depth into this in subsequent slides. But again, I've done this many times in the past and in past videos, and then you'll have access to the document. So you'll be able to see my reasoning as to why Upwork is what it is, at least in my perception. So I talk about why Upwork, and then I go into different reasons. So the fact that Upwork is consistent. I talk about the fact that Upwork is growing. Upwork is high intent. Upwork has incredibly high quality leads. I've signed $1 billion client of Upwork. Upwork is untapped. Nobody except for me, to my knowledge, is talking about this as a viable method of lead generation for B2B companies and agencies, right? So that means that you'd still be early. And because of this, Upwork is uncompetitive. So my reasoning, I go more in depth into this. It's low risk, high reward, but feel free to go through this in your own time, as I don't want to waste your time. Just get right to the value. And of course, another reason why you should listen to me. So does it actually work? Here's my own profile, 100% job success score, 30K plus in earnings on the platform, but I've taken clients off the platform and then I've worked with clients as well using their account, their agencies, and doing all the prospecting and stuff myself. So while this figure is what's on my profile. It doesn't reflect like what I've actually made. So yeah, before we get into it, in this introduction, I want to talk about the two types of leads. Now, you'd be surprised how many people, how many agency owners, how many freelancers, how many people who call business their career don't understand like this concept. So when doing prospecting or outreaching of any kind, you will always get two types of leads. They'll either be qualified leads or unqualified leads, as denoted in this diagram. So the methods that we use to qualify a lead is going to be dependent on your service. But the biggest waste of time is taking meetings with unqualified prospects or just speaking with them. And it's because you won't be able to work with them in the first place. And it's not all wrong. I mean, I'd say maybe 70 to 80% of your leads will be unqualified, but they will serve as another part of your funnel, which is essentially just your customer journey. Like, when they are aware of you, right? When somebody gains awareness of you, then that's the top of the funnel. So maybe they discover your profile on Upwork organically. They are now aware of you. Your middle of funnel type content would be something like your social proof, your video testimonials, written testimonials, etc. And then your bottom of funnel will be like a sales call. So your unqualified prospects won't make it past the middle of funnel just because, there are several reasons as to why they wouldn't. And that's what we would refer to as the qualification parameters. Like what makes a lead qualified versus unqualified. But I'll go more into that. So the purpose of prospecting is to get in front of qualified clients. We want to be holding conversations with people we would want to work with. So using Upwork, this purpose remains the same. So it's a concept universal to business. But just because Upwork is denoted as a freelance platform doesn't mean it doesn't apply to it, right? It definitely does. So luckily for us, we can effectively qualify and disqualify prospects according to specific guidelines that we, and in this case, it would be you, have the liberty of creating and changing at any time. The most common examples of these qualification guidelines are like the industry. So maybe you've gotten results for a client in a specific industry like e-commerce. Therefore, you would want to be working with more e-commerce clients because you have proof of concept, right? That's an example. The number of employees. Maybe you want to work with Maybe you get the best results for the larger companies, ones that are able to expend larger budgets and just have more manpower, right? More perceived value. Because the more employees a company has, typically it's a good denoter of how successful they are as well. The next one is the country or location. So personally, I like to only work in the US, sometimes the UK, and sometimes Australia, right? And Canada. Maybe you get the best results locally. So maybe if you are also in Jamaica, you get the best results for a client in Jamaica. You want to work with somebody that's in your country, like a local business. In that case, again, another qualification parameter, monthly recurring revenue. The most common one and something that all of us can relate to. We don't want to work with a client that probably won't be able to afford us. Hence why we use MRR, monthly recurring revenue, as a qualification parameter. So these are just a few examples, right? And the list can go on. So this is a simple examples that I've just given, but it's what the most successful freelancers or agencies, at least that I've spoken with, have done or are currently doing in order to proliferate their success. So qualified leads are always the goal, right? Naturally. If they aren't qualified, we don't want to waste our time speaking with them. This is a somewhat difficult to understand concept for complete beginners, but just picture this. If you're a complete beginner, so you've gotten incredible results for a specific industry, right? So let's say SaaS, you've gotten incredible results for a SaaS company, so that you know that if it's a SaaS, you'll be able to bring similar results regardless of their niche, right? So as long as they are in SaaS, you'll be able to get them incredibly good results. So because of that, you're able to give a predictable result, and your guarantee would probably never be invoked because you're just doing so good of a job. So this is why you only want to work with them, because you can get them a predictable result, right? So it's the easiest method that you can use in order to determine your ICP, in other words, your ideal customer profile. And then I have a little diagram here. So being a specialist in a particular industry allows for you to become more targeted in who you want to work with. And as a result, you can charge significantly more than if, say, you worked in every single niche, right? If you're a SaaS specialist, SaaS growth specialist, and you've been able to pretty much predictably get the same result for SaaS, maybe you boost their revenue by 50% in 6 months, then you're going to be able to charge more, right? 50% is a considerable number. So on the other hand of that, you have an unqualified lead, which is an unequivocal waste of time, right? Most of the time, it's just it's a complete waste of time. So there are cases where more experienced entrepreneurs will have downsells, and a downsell just means that you have an offer that's not your main offer, but you're able to help the person at the part in their journey, right? So let's say they have an MRR number of 5K, but you only offer your main service to someone who is doing at least 10K in MRR, then you downsell them onto something like a do-it-yourself type thing, like a course, or a done-with-you type model where you just give them everything and then they implement it. That's what a downsell would be. But most don't have this implemented. Like I'd say 90% of agencies, freelancers, B2B companies that don't have downsells. And it's not because they don't want to have one. It's because they don't know that it's an issue and they don't know that it would make them so much more money. So you may be asking yourself, no, like, why can't I just sell them my main offer? Or what determines whether they're unqualified or not, right? So for both questions, the answer is the same. You can sell to them. It's your choice. But by doing so, you're throwing yourselves into a metaphorical swamp of unpredictability, and results become really ambiguous. So you won't be able to predict results. And if you have a guarantee, that guarantee is probably going to be invoked many times over. If you're working with an agency, company, whatever, that you aren't familiar with working with. So all you have is your reputation, and you're actively destroying it by being unable to deliver on your promises. Everybody gets one reputation, guys. That's why, for example, I put so much work into these lead magnets or into these documents, because I need you to understand just how much knowledge and information I have on the topic, so that you know that I'm not trying to, tell you BS, right? So that you have a reason to listen to me. So not every client is worth signing. So this is a lesson that took me over a year to learn, and perhaps I still haven't even fully grasped it yet. But you shouldn't sign a client just because they're willing to pay you. You should never do that. So I can't stress this enough, since both beginners and veterans make this mistake. You're so blinded, I should say we are so blinded by the money that we're willing to unconsciously compromise our current state ever so slightly, just because somebody like dangles money in front of our face and like, oh, I'll pay you, right? I'll pay you, no problem. So a client that doesn't meet your qualification guidelines and is deemed unqualified will be an absolute headache to work with. And if you have a money back guarantee, they'll 1,000% invoke it at the drop of a hat, right? They're headache clients. The art of money making is purely mental based. So the more mental bandwidth that you have to dedicate to a client, the less you can dedicate to others, which will see results slipping for one or many. So don't fall into this trap, guys. Like, I've warned you. So what makes Upwork different? So now this may come as a shocker, I know, 100%. Especially after going through the process of explaining the difference between qualified and unqualified prospects. But the reason Upwork is different, for better or for worse, is because you aren't able to target specific companies on the platform. So unless they give you that information of their own accord, you're just left in the dark, which is about 90% of the time. You just won't know who you're working with, like which industry. Right? They all look the same. We can only discern two qualification guidelines somewhat accurately, and they are revenue and location. So these are pieces of information that we can only get if the client wants to give it, which is the industry and the number of employees that they have, right? But it works out. So while we can't target our specific niche, Upwork does allow us to build our experience and results by working in a variety of different niches. So rather than being the pessimist and just talking about and harping on about, oh, why we still can't see industry, number of employees, stuff like that on Upwork consistently, rather than doing that, we do have the opportunity to further build our experience in other industries, because Who knows? We might have great affinity for this one industry that we find on Upwork as opposed to what we're offering regularly. So you have the opportunity to build your portfolio in a variety of niches, right? You can pick, choose, and refuse who you want to work with. And when you can perform more targeted outreach on other channels. And let me push this to you as well, guys. Microsoft, Bloomberg, Samsung, Airbnb, Dropbox. These are all companies that you recognize. And these are all companies that use Upwork. Would you turn down the opportunity to work with Microsoft just because they weren't in your industry? Probably not. Microsoft is a wicked case study. So you wouldn't do that. So Upwork is king in this regard. Like you can legitimately get into contact with some of the biggest companies in the world at the drop of a hat. So let's get into it. The Upwork job vetting process. Now, I mentioned earlier, for those who read the introduction or those who didn't just skip all the way here, and the only guideline that we can somewhat track is revenue or income, right? So how much is a prospect earning in revenue per month? We can only default to this qualification guideline since after making peace with the fact we won't get our preferred industry and we're open to working in a variety of others. All that will determine whether we work with a prospect or not is whether they can pay us. That's it. That's the only qualification parameter that I use for myself and my clients. If the prospect can't pay us, then there's no reason for us to continue the conversation in the first place, right? I have like a funny gif here. So you're going to pay me or nah? So elements of job qualification. So I've sent well over 6,000 proposals at this point. I've sent over 4,000 proposals just on my account, personal account. That doesn't include clients. So I've recorded the exact elements we can observe to determine qualified versus unqualified jobs. And these are the location, the budget, the job description, and the number of proposals sent. So if you know exactly what to look for when observing these elements of a job post, then the quality of clients you work with on Upwork will be just significantly better. Like it's not even close, right? I can guarantee that it's not close. And if they deviate from our criteria, then just don't apply to the job. If after giving you all of these qualification guidelines, you still are applying to jobs that just deviate from it, then that's entirely on you, right? This has come from experience sending over 6,000 proposals. Like these are the jobs you need to be applying to. So you're wasting money. You're burning money here. It's a cardinal sin if you apply to these jobs outside of the qualification guidelines that I've given you. And I'll find you in game. So the anatomy of a job post. So here's an anatomy lesson that you'll actually stay awake for. An Upwork job post can be broken down into 10 parts. So the title, the location, the budget, the job description, payment verification, feedback, client preferences, time posted, skills, and the number of proposals sent. So just some important things to note is that these 10 aspects remain the same regardless of what niche you're in. These don't change. I don't care whether you're offering Google ads or Facebook ads or lead generation. Like these don't change. So not all of them share the same level of importance in the job application process. So no one part is equal, right? There are some that are better than others. Point blank. And only about 3 to 5 of these are important to take into consideration when applying to a job. Nothing more. 3 to 5 will make up a bulk of them. All 10 will definitely not be used. So only 5, only half of these are somewhat important, right? Everything else is irrelevant. So the job description, the time posted, the proposal sent, the location, and the budget. Like this is all that matters, right? Just zoom in on it here, but this is all that matters. Nothing more, nothing less. So time wasted equal money lost. So squandering time on opportunities by being overly analytical with the other 5 being like the title, whether they're payment verified, what the client prefers, feedback, skills. Like all of these don't matter and you're wasting time really by focusing on them. So I've sent enough proposals so you don't have to wonder which ones are important. And these are undoubtedly the largest waste of time. in determining like how qualified a job is and whether you should skip it or not. So follow that advice. So specificity remains king regardless of what aspect we're covering on Upwork. When looking at the relevant aspects of an Upwork job posting, there are specific things that we want to be looking out for. And I'm going to go into all of them individually, but it can be one of two things: keywords and numerical ranges. So just so you know, for future reference, the goal is for you to eventually get to a point where you can identify and apply to 10 to 20 jobs per day within like 30 to 60 minutes. So half an hour to an hour. This is the goal with this document. Because the faster you're able to send proposals, the better the results that you'll actually get. So here we'll go, starting off with location. So I'm saying this as someone from the third world. I'm from Jamaica. Never apply to an Upwork job posted from the third world. Never do it. I don't care how much they say they're going to pay you. Don't do it. You'll be left extremely disappointed by the quality of the job, and it pretty much already disqualifies the prospect. And you're asking me why. You're probably going like, why? Why would I do that? Why would I eliminate jobs that I could potentially gain? It's because it's highly likely that they'll try to undercut you in price under the pretense that they could get it for much cheaper. Again, I'm from Jamaica. We have people out here that are working like $400 a month, US dollars a month, right? They would jump at the idea of doing this job or doing a job for like an extra $50 a month or $50 a week or something, right? When you tell them that you're actually looking for, or when they post a job, they're expecting that someone would be the same. Like, for sure, they do this for $50 a month, right? When in reality, the job that they're asking for you to do in the job post can be something that ordinary agencies or freelancers would charge like $50 to $100 an hour just to do. So there's the disconnect, right? They're not going to be able to afford you because they're being paid way less than what somebody in the first world would be being paid, right? Because their economies are just better. It's not anything personal. It's just business. So the people from the third world, like Jamaica, for example, are expecting these jobs to be done at a price range that they can afford, not necessarily how much it costs, right? So when I started out on Upwork, I was offering my services for $600 a month. And while this might be as a social media manager at the time, so while this might be like sound cheap to most of you, like for them, those in Jamaica, Pakistan, India, parts of the UAE, like, I don't know, Ukraine going on, like just a few off of the top of my head, this is just ludicrous for them. Like they don't even earn $600 in a month. So for them to pay you that much, it's a lot for them, right? Whereas in the US, it would be much more reasonable. So I just wanted to break that down because I know that a lot of people will have questions on it. Like, why would I avoid these countries? Some of them are even my home countries. But if you want to be paid premium rates, then you need to reach out to people that would be able to pay them in the first place, right? So you will be constantly commodity framed by these prospects. So you're effectively wasting precious time and resources you could have otherwise spent applying to higher quality jobs. And that's just the reality. And just the commodity frame is just a more complex way of saying that you're being price compared to other people. That's all it is. So if someone asks you, how much will this cost me? I'm currently speaking with other freelancers or agencies and I want to get a rough estimate before making a decision. That means they don't care about the quality of your work. They care about how much it costs. And that's a nightmare client. You don't want to work with them because they're going to choose you just because you're cheaper, or they're going to choose your competition because they're cheaper, not because they're better. So I would just cut that out immediately. Like, don't apply it to the third world, right? So the first world is the first world for a reason, right? Objectively speaking, first world is better, not because of the quality of people, but because of their spending power. So this is like a live photo of the first world, right? They have racks to spend. So the reality is those from the first world just have significantly better economies, which allows for them to say yes to more opportunities more comfortably. So let's just keep it first world, ladies and gents. Some countries to avoid applying to, and I'm using this right in my own personal experience, working on Upwork for over 2 years. I mean, no offense if you do dwell in any of these countries, because I'm in one of these countries, right? I even included myself first, my country, Jamaica, right? So I've included parts of the Caribbean like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, Ukraine, Siberia, Estonia. The list goes on, and I've given you reasons why you should never work with these clients, right? They have a comparably lower spending ability to the first world, so they're not going to be able to pay you, right? They often require you to speak their local language. If it's not English, then it's going to be super difficult to communicate with them. And these are clients who just penny pinch you, right? They try to get as much from you as possible. So even if they do pay you like a $600 retainer, in my case, when I was beginning, if they paid me $600, they'd probably work me to the bone and then give me like a 3-star review after, just because I wasn't able to get water from the moon for them. Like, yeah, it's just not worth it. So don't do it. And the countries we want to apply to, the creme de la creme, right? The US, the UK, the New Zealand, Australia, Canada, parts of Western Europe, the UAE, like parts of the UAE. Like, these clients just have way more spending power, just have way better spending ability. All of them here know English. Like, it's either their first or second language, 100%. And they just tend to be the best to work with. Like, my best experiences have been with clients that have worked in, the US, for example. Like, all my clients right now work in the US. And it's just been the best experience possible. We have one in the UK as well, which is, they're pretty cool, right? They don't penny pinch you. They don't try to micromanage you, at least most of them. Those are some traits that you'd see ahead of time. But definitely, like, you can't go wrong applying to jobs from any of these countries. But you have to remember to keep stuff like time zones, currencies, etc. in mind before doing so. So next up is the budget of the job. So I should have probably saved this for last, but it's fine. Everyone seems to think that you can tell the quality of a job purely through the budget. So you default to thinking that if a prospect puts their budget at like $5, that's all they're willing to pay. And that couldn't be further from the truth, right? So I have an example here. So this is an example job posting. So you guys are like, I won't apply to this job because it has no budget. But it's in the healthcare industry. So should you? Like, 1K spent on the job already, but let's get into that. So there are multi-million-dollar organizations that use this platform, and you skip their job posts because they don't put the budget at 5K. I don't think I've ever, like, I'm trying to remember. I might have seen 1 or 2 job posts that have had like a 5K budget or something. But most of them don't. Like, 99% of them never have that. It's well, at least in the industries that I've worked in, right? And I've worked with over 30 at this point. So, one of my very first projects on Upwork was with a $1 billion client and his team. Like, the head of marketing, the head of marketing at his company scouted me from Upwork. And then I ended up working with them for nearly a year. I'm pretty sure it was a year plus. So I can't disclose the individual's name because there was a non-disclosure. But I can show you the proof of the job here. Like, look at this. This is what you guys think, or most of you think, is impossible on Upwork. But this is how much I was getting from the client. And it was more than this as well. Like, I worked with them for much longer, but some jobs I take off Upwork just because it's easier for the client as well. So this was just like an easy, I wouldn't say easy, it was a difficult project, but I'm trying to show you that the job that they posted was like a budget of $300 or something. It wasn't a job for 2.5K. It was a job for $300 and all. That was the budget on the job. The number that you saw on the job was $300. But they were paying me $2,500 for almost a year, or it was a little over a year, right? So I want you to think deeply about this instance the next time you think the budget defines the job quality for some reason, right? It doesn't. So I use the words prospect and client interchangeably here, by the way, because they're essentially the same thing in the context of Upwork. So moving forward, if you see me or if you hear me using them like back and forth, that's probably why. So there are three types of budgets that you can use on Upwork as a prospect or client. So it's a fixed budget, meaning you're paid this amount at completion of the project. The hourly budget, meaning you're paid hourly and must submit a timesheet periodically. Or an unspecified budget, which is a budget type and amount that's to be decided. So it just means negotiable. The first two are self-explanatory, but type 3 isn't typically understood by beginners on Upwork. So they ask themselves, like, why would someone post a job with no budget? And the answer to that is pretty simple, because they don't know how much the job should cost. So why would they put a budget that might be inaccurate? They might be highballing. Maybe they highball the price and then they just pay way more than they should. Similarly, if it's a low cost budget, like if it's something that's low, or if it's something that's high and then they put something low, that would be much easier to make a case of, like, oh, I'd be willing to pay more. I just thought that's how much it would cost. Right? This is what often happens on Upwork. Like, this is the seen through, right? It's not black and white. Like, they either know how much it costs or they don't, so they go for the lower end because they don't want to put too high of a budget and then shoot themselves in the foot. That's all it comes down to. So the mistake that most people make with Upwork is thinking the prospect is knowingly undercutting their prices. It's just not true. 90% of the time, the prospect has no idea what your service actually costs and is shooting in the dark with their budget. Like, it's your job to conduct a brilliant sales process in which they fully understand the value of what you're selling and why it would warrant a premium price tag. After that, it's just a matter of the prospect being able to pay. Like, it's not that difficult. That's essentially it. So this should be common knowledge, but it isn't. So I'm going to put you onto some game right now. So Upwork prospects will use budget placeholders if they don't know how much the job they've posted should actually cost. So they will use multiples of 5, like $5 fixed price, or $10 hourly, $500 fixed, or $100 fixed, or $300 fixed. So after speaking with dozens, if not hundreds of prospects at this point, this is what I've found out, and I apply this knowledge to my own application process. All right, these are the budget placeholders. So if you see these, typically it's just like a placeholder. Like, they just put it there. So as a rule of thumb, I only apply to jobs with specific budgets for each type and above. So if they're less than these figures, regardless of the job type, chances are the mentioned budget is intentional and they aren't willing to budge on it. So if they say in the job description that they're only willing to pay $300 for this job, it's not negotiable. Like, that's exactly what they want. So the figures are as follows. If I see these on a job, I will 100% apply unless they themselves say that they're not willing to go higher than this. So it's $15 an hour plus for the hourly rate, $300 plus for the fixed rate, and then an unspecified budget of any kind, right? Hourly or fixed. These figures are the minimum though. So refrain from applying to any job that is below that specified threshold. I know that there are budget placeholders for like $5, but you will get better at this, at discerning these jobs with time. So I'm giving you like the blueprint, but feel free to experiment. Be a scientist. So the reason it isn't a grand one, it's just what has worked in the past for me. And as for this unspecified budget, is by far my favorite one because it typically means that things are up for negotiation, which means they likely have a decent budget. They can pay you. So we've gone over 3 at this point, 2 or 3, right? So next up is the job description. So the job description is a prospect's only way of communicating with you prior to your first interaction in the messages. And here's an example of a job description. So paying special attention to what they have outlined here will make all the difference between a stellar client and a terrible one. Prospects will often tell on themselves by what they write in the description, and it's our duty to identify as much as we can so we can avoid what could be a tumultuous relationship. Just a rocky one, right? You know, I said it before, but nobody wants to work with headache clients. And the inverse is also true. Like, take everything that is said with a grain of salt, as misunderstandings can also occur with what's written. So I don't know why I have to say this, but you need to actually read the job description. Like, you need to be reading it. It's not as simple as saying something like, oh, I've seen this so many times, I'm just never going to apply to it ever again. Or I'm never going to read it ever again. Like, that doesn't happen. You need to be reading the job description. And I know because I used to do this, right? I would skip jobs with descriptions that just seemed to take up the entire page. I don't know where these people were getting these descriptions from, but they were so similar that I was just so put off by it. Like, I would just say, all right, I'm not even applying to this because I know what it is that they want. But if they're using Upwork as an agency, you want to read these more thorough descriptions because you don't want it to be a case where you apply to a job where you're wasting your time, right? If they say that they're not looking for an agency, but you as an agency responds to the job post, then chances are that you just waste your connects right there. So don't skip the job description. Make sure you read it in its entirety. I have a nice graphic for this. Like, here, 55 IQ, you do the same thing as the 145 IQ guy. Like, the in-between is just terrible. Optimizers. So keywords are the key to success. And that's a nice pun. You have to give me that. But in all seriousness though, there are specific keywords you want to look out for when reading the job description. And I've made a list. So no agencies. If they say no agencies in the job description, do not apply as an agency. If you're an agency using Upwork to get more leads, don't apply to that job. Simple as that. Don't waste connects. Looking for a freelancer, not an agency. Same thing as the first one, but again, it's a key phrase, right? Or keyword. I'll get to that. So reply with sneeze, so I know you read the description, right? They'll do this in order to like vet bots, right? They don't want bots to be applying to their jobs, so they put this as like a captcha. You know that thing where when you're logging on to a website or you're signing up, and it asks you to click the images with a crosswalk in them, for example. It's that. And then you must have a certain amount of years of experience. These are all like very common key phrases that you should look out for before applying to the job. And it's why you read the job description first. Doesn't matter how long it is. So the more details, like I even sighed a while ago because I'm just getting flashbacks right now. But what I found is that these incredibly long job descriptions tend to be like the lowest quality jobs, right? Regardless of which country they're from, they just tend to be the lowest quality jobs ever. And I'd advise that you tread lightly with these jobs just because you can attract some of the worst types of clients by applying to them. But again, this is my own experience. So be a scientist. Once again, test, experiment what works for you. What might be the case in one niche is definitely not the case in other niches. Okay, so now we're going on to time posted. Now, time is still the master here. It's a fact that Upwork has been consistently growing by 11% year over year, right? It's just constantly on the uptick. So as more freelancers and clients alike join the platform, competition will only become steeper as the years go by. I want to preface it by saying this. So rather than only leveraging a great proposal and profile, we want to incorporate a certain level of speed into our pitches as well. It's like speed plus quality equals success. This is a fact, right? So, I'm Speed. McQueen is telling you. And Goggins, like we all know Goggins. So personally for myself and my clients, I only apply to jobs that have been posted within an hour. It's only been an hour since the job has been posted. So if the job is more than an hour or two old, I will skip this job completely. So it depends on the niche as well, because some niches are just more volatile than others. But typically, this is what you want to do. Like 50 plus people would have already applied to the job after an hour in some niches. You just want to get rid of that completely. Don't apply to those types of jobs. We are scientists and people of probability. So thinking we'll get a job that has 50 plus other people in front of us in the line, I don't know whether it's arrogance or ignorance, but it's one of them. Either way, it's not good, right? Not ideal. As I like to say, there are exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, the sooner you apply to a job, the better the results you'll get. So you want to actively be tracking how soon you apply to jobs and what the correlation is between losing and winning. So at minimum, you want to be applying for jobs that say posted an hour ago or less than an hour ago. If you want the holy grail, then just apply to jobs posted within minutes and you'll get a huge dopamine rush too. So I've given some reasons for this as well that you can just go over. And then lastly, we want to talk about the number of proposals sent. Now, this is just way too straightforward for me to go into explicit detail. But if more than 50 people have applied to a job before you even click onto it, don't apply to that job. Just avoid that job completely. You're wasting your connects, especially if you're not boosting, which I think is like another waste of connects. And I'll explain that in a later video. But we don't want to be vying for these huge jobs, especially as a beginner, right? Maybe if you wanted ice cream, but had to wait in the blistering heat to get it due to just an insanely long line, would you wait in that line and risk heat stroke? That'd have to be some pretty damn good ice cream. And I think some would say yes. But why would you put yourself and your resources at risk for a job whose line is just simply too long? Because you're just putting your connects. You apply to jobs thinking you'll get it. So using that same logic, don't apply to jobs where you think you won't get it, right? You're just wasting your time by doing that. So 20 to 50 people that have applied to a job that you want to apply to, it's just a no-go. Don't do it. Don't do it, right? It's a complete waste of time in my experience, especially as a beginner, right? You're vying for a job and you're only a little bit further in the line. So you went from all the way back here and now you're here, right? And I'm saying that with the best intentions in mind. Don't waste your connects. Don't apply to jobs that have 20 to 50 proposals already on it. There are thousands of jobs posted on Upwork every day. So yeah, you have plenty of other opportunities. So the holy grail would be if it says proposals less than 5, like less than 5 proposals submitted, we want to be applied to that because we're still early. We're still super early to that job. Need to be taking advantage of that. So that's another reason. So speed as well. Speed and number of proposals sent go hand in hand. Because the faster you apply to a job after it's posted, the less people that are actually applying for it. So it's just much easier to stand out. So just a bonus here, but identifying scam jobs. If a job... this is a platform that's huge. So you're going to find scams on it, right? But they're so easy to spot that after seeing this, you'll never ask again. You'll never fall for it again. So if a job includes the words Telegram or WhatsApp in it, and they have the number, that's a scam job. Never apply to it. The only thing, or one of the only things that Upwork clamps down on incredibly hard is communication outside of the platform. So if somebody is asking you to communicate with them outside of the platform in the job, scam. Like if you see it in the job description or they send you a message after they respond to your proposal and they're asking you to message them on Telegram or fill out a form or WhatsApp. Like here's an example. So kindly message me via Telegram. This is a scam job, right? 100% scam. Nobody uses Telegram for business, bro. So inbound scams exist too. So some people will offer you something without even having spoken to you. And while it does happen, like there are legit cases of this, but they'll at least put like their reasoning behind it. They'd be like, oh yeah, I saw your profile and I think you'd be perfect for this job. These people have nothing. They just reach out to you. Hi, I want to hire you to run ads on Facebook. This is my Facebook page. This is just the scammer is written on these guys' foreheads, right? I don't even know if it's a guy there. Maybe it's a girl in this picture. But yeah, it doesn't matter whether or not. If you fall for something like this after I tell you about it, then it might just be so over, guys. But just a quick summary. So do not apply unless all of these conditions are met. The budget is at least $300 fixed or $15 per hour hourly, or it's unspecified. The location is the United States, parts of Western Europe, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and even parts of the UAE. And the number of proposals sent is either less than 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20. I'm a large proponent of the first two though. And then for time posted within an hour. As long as you follow these guidelines, you will find high quality jobs. Like it's not a matter of if, but, or when. I've given you all the cards, so now it's just how you'll play them, right? I believe in you. and you got this. I really hope that this video was helpful to someone, whether you're a beginner, veteran, or just complete expert. I'm sure that there's something that you could have learned from this, and I hope that you did. And if you want to see more videos like this, then feel free to subscribe to my channel and just join me in my free community as well as on my newsletter. The links are in the description below. I'll also leave links to my previous videos, so you'll be able to check those out. But yeah, thank you so much, guys and girls. Take care. Bye.